You have the power to tackle the toughest issues facing humanity today.
It's easier than you think. You can start with something as simple as
make a lunch for a homeless person.
Pick up waste in your community.
Participate in a cultural event that is of a different culture.
Use your talents to help your community.
Each simple act is just one building block in the creation of peace.
Peace in your community, peace in your region of the world.
One building block in the creation of justice and human rights for all.
And that is what creates lasting peace.
13 Nobel Peace Prize winners are leading this ambitious campaign and showing us the way. To get started today, visit billionacts.org.
Good evening to each and every one of you who has taken the time to join us this evening on the third episode of Teacher Talks. My name is Warta Peterson, the producer of the all new podcast show hosted under the auspices of Peace Jam South Africa. That video that we just played is an amazing campaign called 1 Billion Acts of Peace, launched by Peace Jam Foundation to inspire global citizen movements to tackle the toughest issues facing humanity. Everyday people taking action. We are building a worldwide movement guided by Nobel Peace Prize winners, led by youth, and supported by each and every one of us in our communities to create solutions to the issues that we face together. Through collective action, we can transform the world. Do you have a service project that you'd like to register on the 1 Billion Acts of Peace website? Would you like to meet, connect with creative, compassionate individuals who are doing similar acts of peace and kindness as you are? Then hop on over to our Billion Acts of Peace website, which is billionacts.org today, and take the first step in putting forth your peace building efforts to bring about positive change. As I mentioned in the beginning, tonight is the third episode of Teacher Talks, a podcast show that is designed to showcase our key issue areas at Peace Jam. Start conversation and walk away with a way to bring about positive change. What are these 10 key issue areas, you may ask, and why are they so important? The 10 key issue area focuses are used by Peace Jam to guide change within the community. Our philosophy at Peace Jam is if that we achieve all these 10 goals to their maximum potential, we would achieve world peace. Our Peace Jam mentors, Peace Jam ambassadors, and leaders have brought about positive and impactful change within these 10 key issue areas. The key issue area myself and Tasneem Abrahams will be getting to this evening is alleviating extreme poverty. Welcome, Tasneem Abrahams. We are joined by a grade 6 educator who is Tasneem Abrahams at Kleinberg Primary School in Ocean View, which is a community that I'm actually from. And yeah, just welcome, Tasneem. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Good evening, Wada. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome, awesome. Tasneem, tell us a bit about yourself. Tell us who Tasneem is, like what does she do? What are you passionate about?
I am a grade six educator, as you mentioned, at Kleinberg Primary in Ocean View, which is a no fee paying school. I've been teaching here for 4 years. I came here straight after I graduated. I studied at the
Wow.
University of the Western Cape, where I obtained my B.Ed. I majored in English and life orientation. I've always had a passion for children, but being at a no fee school in my community over the past 4 years has really developed a passion for the growth and upliftment of children, especially those living through adversities.
Lovely. And just going back to you being in this profession, like when was that moment, that you thought to yourself, I want to be an educator? When did you discover your passion for teaching?
I've always wanted to be a teacher. You know, when you're in primary school and the teacher asks everyone what do they want to be when they grow up, I always said a teacher. It was that or a lawyer. And funny enough, the deciding factor for me was a movie called Freedom Writers. I don't know if you've seen it, but the main
I
character
haven't.
is it's a new teacher in an inner city school. So the environment isn't so great. The kids belong to gangs and so forth. And she said something really profound in the movie. She said that if she were to be a lawyer and she was defending a child in court, she's already lost half of the battle. So she decided to be an educator to prevent that from
Wow.
happening. And that always resonated with me because I always felt like I wanted to be some sort of change in the world, you know. I feel like we grew up like in the go girl generation, you can do anything. And so I just
Mm.
combined my passion, which was children, um, and turned it into what is my career today.
I love that. I honestly, like, I take my hat off, to people who are honestly, living by their passions. Honestly, we live in such a world where there's so many opportunities to get demotivated, or to quickly, like, get knocked down if you don't get it right the first time. But I think that when something is truly led by passion, I think that you can honestly do absolutely anything. And I think that's so beautiful. And just going back to the beginning, where I mentioned earlier in the call that we will be discussing alleviating extreme poverty, which is one of the 10 key issue areas. Now, Tasneem, what is poverty in your opinion?
So, by definition, Wada, poverty is the lack of basic human needs. So, your shelter, your clothing, your food. But poverty can actually be categorized into can be put into six different categories, which is absolute poverty, relative poverty, situational, generational, urban, and rural. And the reason I'm explaining that they are different types is because most people think that poverty only exists in absolute poverty. When I say absolute poverty, I mean your third world African countries where children are dying of malnutrition and there's no clean water. So people think because we have access to water or to a house, like we don't live in poverty. So of that list, I just want to cover two, which I think is relevant to the community that I teach in: generational poverty and urban poverty. Generational poverty meaning poverty that is passed on from the previous generation. And what makes this one tricky is that individuals or families don't have the toolkit, or they're not equipped with the knowledge to break away from the cycle. So it just keeps continuing. So the same way generational wealth is passed on, generational poverty also exists. The next thing I wanted to cover that I thought was very relevant to my community is urban poverty, which is characterized by the lack of sufficient healthcare, lack of education,
Mm.
inadequate housing, poor service.
Mm.
This is relevant on the Cape Flats because we know the Group Areas Act um, formed these areas that still exist, that are now
Mm.
hostile environments that are rife with gangs and drugs. And this all constitutes factors of urban poverty.
Mm. I like that you went into to those different types of factors, and I think that thank you so much for that. And just going on to that's kind of leading on to my next question. I know that you mentioned that the school that you teach at is a no-fee school. So that kind of helps in a way, which kind of leads on to my next question. How does your school or you as an educator deal with students who are less fortunate, that are being bullied because of their circumstances, and how can educators identify and prevent this?
So, the life skills curriculum educates learners on bullying, and I believe like the code of conduct of the school could reprimand bullying. But in my personal capacity, I believe in building an individual's self-esteem and building their
Mm.
self-worth, teaching empathy and allowing them to
Wow.
share their trauma. And when they become conscious of these things, they just become all around better human beings. And like I was explaining to a friend of mine, bullying is always going to occur. It's not just in a school environment. It's you're going to find it in the workplace one day. And a child living in poverty has so many factors against them already.
Mm.
Something bad about you, it's not going to ruin your whole day. And as I'm speaking to you now, I have these conversations with my learners, and it's what upsets
Mm.
you? Why does it upset you that deeply? Just to bring them to that level of consciousness and awareness. So, like I said, the curriculum helps with bullying. The school management can help with bullying, but as an educator, we just always need to strive to make the kids aware and build that self-esteem, so that something like bullying doesn't get them down.
I like that. No, I like that, just going back to quoting what you just said about just teaching them empathy, and that is so important, especially at a young age. Like, because I had this conversation with someone in the car the other day on our way to work. We said that kids are like sponges, like they absorb everything. So it's like literally, like the sooner you like advise them and steer them on the correct path in terms of like installing those models, installing those values, installing those really really positive and really key qualities. I think that that is definitely one of the ways you guys as educators can be proactive in terms of preventing this. And just in your opinion, Tasneem, do you feel that the community in your community, do you feel that they assist those who are less fortunate or don't have any source of income, therefore resorting in poverty? If so, how are they assisting? And if no, how can they assist?
I feel like the community that I live in, everyone does assist. Like we have a lot of organizations, your religious foundations, the churches and the mosques do amazing charity work. My school, for example, I mentioned is a no-fee paying school, so we have a feeding scheme. So we provide breakfast and lunch for students daily. So that is sustainable, and that's a great thing because that might be the only two meals that a student has for the day. So to answer your question, I do think the community is doing what they can do, but there's always more that we can do. When we're talking about poverty and alleviating poverty, there's never enough that we can do.
No, I like that. As and this is actually you and I actually had this conversation the other day. You said that if we all you said something, you said if we all do our little bit, yes, not everyone might not be by the means financially, but um, you know we if we all help with something, we can do so we can be so much more impactful than we think, and definitely one on the way to alleviating poverty. And we've got a comment from Adabia. It is so. She says, thank you so much for addressing this issue. This is an important topic to discuss. Thank you so much, Dabia. And hello to everyone in the comment section. If you have any questions for our guest educator tonight, which is Tasneem Abrahams, a grade 6 teacher from Kleinberg Primary School in Ocean View. If you have any questions for her or myself, please do not hesitate to reach out into the comment section. We are here. Talk to us, and Tasneem will be happy to answer any questions. Awesome. And just going to Sneem, do you remember that period of time, that individuals started looting in KZN, breaking into, be it local or even big businesses, salvaging whatever they could. Do you think that being homeless or not having anything to eat was was either one or was one of the main reasons that those individuals resorted to looting?
You know what? I think this is a very controversial topic, and I don't know if you remembered when it happened, like on social media, all the different opinions that they were. And I believe nothing justifies the violence and the breaking down of business establishments. I get that, and it was very sad to see. But I do think it speaks to how desperate people are and how far they are willing to go. And it does beg the question that if all of our basic needs were met, if we lived in harmony, if we lived in equality, if we all um, lived in harmony, then would something like that be easy for you to do? And I think not. So I can't say whether I think it's right or wrong, but I do think it does show us the state of our country, the vast inequalities that we face, and also how divided we are.
Just touching on you saying using the word harmony, which kind of like leads me straight on to my next question. Um which is, what is the connection, in your opinion? What is the connection between peace and poverty?
So I believe that to obtain peace, we need to alleviate poverty, but not just alleviate poverty, restore human dignity. If we I see this all the time with my students, right? That student that's willing to go, that's willing to display, poor behavior with
Mm,
ease. Um, they do that because they don't have much dignity. And if you look at
mm,
their home situation, the struggles that they face, sometimes to make poor decisions is easier when you feel like you have nothing. But when you have self worth, when you have a stable family, when you have a sense of belonging, and like I mentioned before, your needs are met, to make bad decisions, it doesn't come easy to you. I feel that if we alleviate poverty, restore human dignity, where families are able, where breadwinners are able to provide for their families and feel that dignity, and we can all strive to be better people because of that, then we can achieve peace.
definitely, I think that's very beautiful. It's the striving to achieve peace, and really, living in harmony and peace, really. And that is why we do what we do. Like, we at Peace Jam South Africa and Mentoring Peace Builder South Africa, we are very much of like focused on peace building efforts, and just living in harmony and having peace within yourselves and peace within your communities and around you. So I think that that's really amazing. And just going on to privilege, the connection between privilege and power and poverty. Like, what is your understanding, your personal understanding of privilege and power? And do you think that it plays a role in poverty? Could people who are privileged alleviate poverty?
So, my understanding and what I've seen play out in my life of privilege and power is those who are privileged get to have goals and dreams, and then they get to attain them, or the opportunity is available for them. For example, if I wanted to go to university and study something, it wasn't a question who was going to pay my fees. Do you understand? And the sad thing is, when I think about privilege and then I think about the environment I teach in, there are 12-year-olds that I see that are scared to dream because is the privilege to dream and know that one day it could be a reality. And could people who are privileged alleviate poverty? Definitely. Just allow us the same opportunities. Let us sit at your table. If you go to a great school with resources that's nicely funded, integration, 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 allow us to have that same opportunity too.
Definitely. I just, I just love these things that you're saying, like these quotes that you are creating, just having like the privileges to dream, and and having it be a reality like that. Honestly, that is so beautiful and so powerful. And this is also something that you and I also discussed back then. Like, what is your opinion and thoughts on education, be it courses, be it fees, be it actual school fees, or like university or college fees being so expensive, making it hard, sometimes impossible, for those who are not by their means financially?
I think, and this is my personal belief, if you cannot afford it, which for the most part is the case because you get national student funding, but again, it's not accessible to all. I remember being in varsity and all of my friends were on student funding. And when there was a time where I couldn't afford my fees and I had to submit documents, I couldn't get student funding. It's kind of like a missing middle where, yes, they do cater to people who can't afford it, but there's kind of like loopholes in the system that we need to address. So, just to answer your question, I believe full-heartedly that if you are not by the means, but you are academically deserving, um, then then we should allow them to attend university without a financial obligation.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much for that. And just going on you believing that these education should be, an equal opportunity. Is there a way, or do you have any idea to basically create an equal opportunity to both people of privilege and people of poverty to get access to the same education?
Like I said, Wanda, there's so many loops in the education system. So, for example, legally you're allowed to leave school at grade 9, right? So, my previous answer, I was speaking about the academically gifted child that lives in poverty. So, should that child gain admission because of its academic merit, they should be able to go there without the financial obligation, right? But what about the child who's not academically inclined? What about that child who opts to leave school at grade 9? What are his or her options? So I do believe that there are colleges and courses and stuff out there, but it needs, as everything else, it needs to be more. It needs to be more accommodating, it needs to be more accessible, it needs to be more affordable. And whatever qualifications they receive from these courses needs to hold value. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we need to, in order for us to create this equal education system, we need to look at it from all aspects and cater to every child, not just the academically deserving child.
Definitely, and I mean we see this, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong. This is just my personal opinion. I think I've seen this personally in our community, is that a lot of the times, and this is what sometimes parents might not be able to understand, or we want the best for our kids. We want them to have an education. We want them to go to school. We want them to matriculate. We want them to, so the sometimes it's so difficult for kids, who are not academic, who are just
Mm-hmm.
love to work with their hands, who want to do practical things, want to do handiwork, want to fix the electricity, if something switches, or is
Mm.
interested in mechanic work or in woodwork, and I think, going back to what you just said on, they are legally able to drop out of school at grade 9, but then have that, as a sort of as a way for them to go into, okay, cool, so right now in at the finishing grade 9, you are dead set on, you don't want to continue academically, but you would like to still continue your education, just doing it in a different way, which is like physical labor or practically, so I think that is something that we really need to sort of encourage and sort of create opportunities for. So I definitely think that
Mm.
that is a way. And then, just going back to what schools can do. What can schools do to address poverty? What can educators do to assist students that are struggling, be it financially or be it emotionally?
So I believe, like, for a child in poverty, the struggle isn't financial. And I know that sounds weird, but what I mean by that is a child can't get up and go work and provide for the family. So when we talk about poverty and the child, um, the emotional distress of poverty is what hurts the child. So for me as an educator, like I mentioned in my other question, I'm always just trying to build the self-esteem, build the confidence, also create a sense of belonging, and that if there's one person in the world that cares about you, it's me. You can do it. You are worth more. And if we give them this emotional toolkit, and then maybe they can break out of their cycle. So if I go back to what I said about generational poverty exists because people are not equipped with the emotional toolkit, the financial toolkit, the knowledge to break away from the cycle. So what can I do for a child? I can provide him with the emotional toolkit. Do you know, poverty can be a physical thing, can be a financial thing, but you don't have to have poverty of the mind. You can be rich in your thoughts. You can have confidence. And I think as educators, we should always try to do that. My colleagues and I always talk about how we spend most of the time with a learner more than their parents spend with him. So my advice to other educators is, even when it seems exhausting, even when you are exhausted, because what are you do get tired um, from all the secondhand trauma. I know I've been teaching now 4 years in this community. I go home sad, I go home tired, I go home exhausted, just hearing about and feeling the trauma alongside my students. And so my advice to educators is just always be that positive space and be that person who believes in them. Because if they make that emotional connect, that mental
Mhm.
change, then they can always believe that they can break out of their cycle, that their current situation doesn't have to be their future situation. And there's nothing I can really do financially for one child, let alone 40 children in one
Mhm.
class. But I can equip them with that emotional intelligence, that emotional toolkit to move them through their hard times. And
Wow.
like I said, just build that self-esteem, build that strong mindset, that mindset of I can do anything no matter where I come from.
Wow, I think what has stood out for me the most, you know, with what it is that you just said is that you said something that really stood out for me, and you said you are worth more. Letting kids know that they matter, that they are here, they are present, and they have you as an educator. Rich in thoughts, that is also something that stood out for me. We might not be able to help them financially, even though we really want to, but we might not also be by the means, but we can enrich their minds and enrich the way that they think. And I think that's really powerful. And Rabia has said she wishes more people were watching this. You are really speaking about real things, things that our community needs to speak about and engage in. 100% understand. And Rabia, thank you for attending. And, thank you to everyone else who is here and who is present. Whoever has missed this can always view it afterwards. We will share the video. We'll make it public so they can always just revisit. Maybe they are busy doing things at this specific time. But you are so 100% correct. These are the raw topics. This is reality. This is what we are living in, and what we are surrounded by. So I definitely agree with you. Thank you, Rabia, for being so engaging in the comments. And that kind of just leads me to the final thing, Tasneem. Do you have, and you have given us so many words of encouragement, but do you have like any final words of encouragement for our audience watching, for those who are struggling, but are so afraid to reach out and ask for help?
The help exists. There are people who want to help you, so don't be afraid to do that. And also, like if you are raising young children, do it for them. Put your pride in your pocket and do it for them. I believe that one saying is we bend them while they're green. So we want to raise our children up to be great adults. So there's no shame in asking for help. There are many organizations out there. And just to everybody else who was watching and just listening to what we were speaking about, um, my plight is always for the children. So whatever you can do to uplift, to provide for the growth and development of our youth living in these communities, like do it, even if it's just words of encouragement. If we all work together, we can make a difference.
I love that, guys. You've heard it. If we all work together, we can make a difference. Thank you so much. Tasneem, there you have it, everyone. Alleviating extreme poverty within schools, institutions, and community. Tasneem, thank you so much for being a guest speaker this evening on the third episode of Teacher Talks. It was an absolute pleasure and so refreshing, to have you online this evening, as well as hearing what your thoughts and understanding is about the topics that we discussed. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. You must have a lovely evening.
You too.
Take care. Bye. Awesome. And I just want to say a big thank you to those who have joined us this evening. You could have been absolutely anywhere doing anything right now, but you have chosen to be here with us. And I just want to say thank you. We have had a powerful, powerful discussion. Some things that really stood for me, as I mentioned to Tasneem, is enrich kids' lives, enrich their minds. In if you cannot help by the means financially, speak positive thoughts in them, speak words of encouragement. So thank you to our audience, and thank you to Peace Jam South Africa for hosting the third episode of Teacher Talks on the platform this evening, and not forgetting my amazing tech team. Catch the fourth episode of Teacher Talks next week, Wednesday, the 13th of October at 7 p.m., as we are joined by an educator from the Dominican School for the Deaf. Stay tuned to our socials for more announcements and updates on who the guest speaker is and what key issue area we will be covering. Make sure that you are following us on Facebook, Peace Jam South Africa on Facebook, and at Peace Jam SA on Instagram, as well as Mentoring Peace Builders South Africa NPC on Facebook and Mentoring Peace Builders SA on Instagram. Calling all educators, be it teacher advisors, principals, student teachers, as you may have seen in our previous events, videos that we've shared with you when we broadcasted workshops, conferences, and facilitating that we've had the opportunity in creating, we have an award winning program which we'd be delighted to share with you and have you implement these different programs accordingly into your schools. How do you go about this, you may ask? Reach out to us on our social page. Feel free to contact me as well, the programs and recruitment coordinator, on taking the first step to not only finding out more information about our different programs, but to also, suit your learning needs, but to also form sustainable long-term working relationships with. Before we wrap this episode up, we have a very special announcement and shout out to make. Guys, today, the 7th of October, marks the 90th birthday of one of our Nobel Peace laureates, Desmond Tutu. We at Peace Jam South Africa would like to wish you a happy birthday.
When you do your little bit of good where you are, and it is those little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world.
Happy 90th birthday, Archbishop Tutu, from your Peace Jam family. We love you!
Guys, that was a quote, that our organization lives by and by the great Desmond Tutu. Do your little bit of good where you are, for it's those little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world. We hope that you have had the most memorable birthday ever, and we want you to know that we are tremendously grateful and honored to be a part of the legacy alongside you. Once again, thank you so much to our viewers who have joined us this evening. We are tremendously grateful for your support. And until next time, until next week, Wednesday, see you. And we will keep you posted on our social media pages. And we are sending you so much love and light. Peace out.